Fine. So, as a part of AP, still we have three concepts as a pending. One is invoice approvals. The other one is how to create the basic BI report and OTBA reports. Okay. Fine. Okay. Just we'll see the invoice approvals. So in this environment, it was not supporting. We'll see. We'll try if we are able to get the expected results. Okay, or else I'll be showing in the different instance. Okay. But let's try to understand how to configure. Now what we'll do is to set up this approvals. We have our user called as ERP Cloud. Who is employee user? Okay, who is employee user? And what we'll do is we'll go with the case if this user is going to create any invoice. If this employee is going to create an invoice, that should be routed to his supervisor for approval. Okay, to create this scenario in the system, so we have to create one more user. Create user called, we call it, we'll just name it as ERP Cloud MGR. After creating the user, we'll create the relationship between these two employees as employee supervisor relationship. Say create employee supervisor relationship. After that, we have to create the rule. We have to create the approval rule saying that, okay, so how the approvals should be routed. So create approval rule. This approval rule will be creating in BPM. BPM stands for business process management. BPM. In case of EBS, we have AME, approval management engine. Through approval management engine, you can define the rule and you can complete the required additional setups, and that approvals will start triggering and it will be routed based on the what are the conditions you defined and what are the specifications you given within the rule. Here, what rule we are going to create? So every invoice, okay, every invoice should be routed to a supervisor. Any user is going to create that should be routed to supervisor. Okay, we'll go with some other type of rules also. We'll go and specify this approval should go to specific person or it has to go to some group of people. These scenarios also will be testing. First, we'll look at this case. Okay, we'll be working on the same approvals in case of purchasing for requisitions, purchase orders, as well as GL journals also. We'll be touching these concepts. At the time, we'll go with the different scenarios. Okay, to understand the basic approvals process in the system, we'll go with this example. Okay, we have a ERP cloud user will be acting as employee. This employee is going to have a supervisor called as ERP cloud MGR, and the same relationship will be building by performing one task, and we'll create the approval rule in BPM which says, okay, that invoices whatever user is going to create that should get routed to supervisor. Okay, again you will be just there are different levels also. When you're defining that, we'll discuss those points. So after completing that, before you go and create the invoice and the payables, we have to enable invoice approvals for our business unit. Say enable invoice approvals for BU by using invoice options. Within the invoice options, we'll have that control to specify whether approvals you want to have approvals or not. When we'll complete these steps, and what we'll do is we'll create the invoice from ERP cloud. From ERP cloud, we'll go and create invoice, say with any amount. Here we are not creating rule, amount specific. That also will be creating later, but for now just we'll go with any amount that has to be routed to that specific employee's supervisor. We'll create invoice the 50,000 and submit for approval, or say initiate approval. Then so that notification goes to ERP Cloud MGR. So ERP Cloud MGR will through the approve invoice. Okay, this is what we are going to test now. We'll see this. So already we have ERP Cloud user who is going to act as a just employee, and we have to create another user called as ERP Cloud MGR. We'll go and create it. Okay. So this you can create as a employee user or implementation user. Both the cases this approvals will work, but better we can go with the employee user definition so that you will be able to create the relationship. If you create as an employee user, okay, if you create as implementation user, okay, you cannot have a specification to specify the relationships. Only the relationships you can specify for employee users. If you are going to test some different scenarios just in the test environment, okay, that will work. Reality will be creating all the time employee user only for these scenarios. Fine. So we'll go and create the user.
Lakshman, if we have suppose a different invoice limit, okay, suppose this approval is only allow for the 25,000 invoice approval. Another, if it is goes beyond that amount, then it will go to the above that some other person.
Yes.
So that hierarchy we can maintain.
Yeah, we can do that. That you can achieve by using the approval groups. You can create approval group for one person. That also I'll be covering that approval group concept also. Say you have a limit 50,000 and say 75,000, say 1 lakh. So you can specify, say for example, if the invoice amount is going to be same or less than 50,000, that should be approved by say employee A. Okay, 75 or okay, or else it's in between 50,000. I mean, it's a more than 50,000 and up to 75,000 that should be approved by B. Or it's a more than 75,000 to 1 lakh that should be approved by C, for example. So this can be achieved. For this, we have to create the 3 approval groups. The first group will take person A, employee A. The second group will take employee B. And third group will take employee C. Or else you may want to allow. So if invoice amount is same or less than 50,000, okay, so that can be approved by A and D and X. You want to allow these 3 people to approve if invoice is going to be same 50,000 or less than 50,000. In that case, create approval group these 3 people and specify the rule. Okay, these also will be testing that can be achieved through approval group. You can group the people. For that group of people, what is the limit to approve the invoice that you can specify in the system? Okay.
Lakshman.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I'm unable to assign the payables and the receivables related roles in our my user like FAS
We'll
or
see that.
10 student.
I'm sorry, like we'll discuss that maybe end of the session if you don't mind, because now we are
Okay.
working on this. Yeah? We'll do that. We'll definitely. We'll see in the session only. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Lakshman, are there any limitations in terms of using BPM? If you remember using AME, right, there were certain limitations. I don't remember all the limitations using the AME. Are there any such sort of limitations using the BPM?
Here, limitations in the sense you have a flexibility. You can create your custom workflows also. Here, basically, we call it a task configuration. Nothing but it's a workflow only. In EBS, whatever we call as workflow, that That definition here you call as a task configuration, which will be addressing some routing process. So here you have a flexibility of creating your own this what I can say customization. You can customize that process. For that you need the BPL expert, and who is other side who is expertise in the BPM also. Okay, you can just do the changes. Okay, you can create altogether new one, and you will be able to use it. That flexibility we have. And before that, whatever the workflows, whatever the BPM workflows Oracle is providing, so it got enough flexibility to meet the business requirements. Okay, those many vast options they're given, where you can go with the different conditions, and there are many parameters which you can address to route your documents, okay, for approvals. Okay, normally like whatever Oracle is giving, that would be enough. And more than that, if you require, you will be able to do some sort of customization for this with the help of BPL and BPM expert. So that is the technical part. Fine. Okay, so let's proceed with this required configuration, and we'll test by passing the invoice and submitting approvals and approving the same from manager. Okay, so we have a ERP cloud user, and now we'll go and create the ERP cloud MGR. So we have a task to create the employee user as a manage users, right? With this task, we'll be able to create the employee. Okay, just click on manage users. Then click on create. Okay, so here you can give the name as ERP cloud MGR. Okay, just provide any email ID. This field is mandatory. And this employee, if you require username for this employee, you can specify. Anyway, for user purpose only, we are creating this employee first of all. So specify that. And one more very important point: when you are testing the approvals, okay, if you are going to create the user or employee for to make that user or employee as a manager, okay, within these instances which you use for this kind of demo purpose or testing purpose, there is some sort of bug in the environments. What we have to do is, if you are going to create any user or employee for the purpose of supervisor, you have to make sure that that supervisor hire date should be before employee hire date. Okay, reality, it's not true. Okay, of course, we may have employees, and today or tomorrow we may hire supervisor, maybe new supervisor. In that case, you have to give today date or on which date we are hiring. Okay, but in the system process there is some bug. So for that, what you have to do is make sure that you are taking the hire date before employee hire date. We created that employee maybe one month ago, not more than that. So what I'll do is, for this ERP cloud MGR, I'll give the hire date as a past date before our employee hire date. By default, system will be taking the same date on which date you are creating employee. System is taking today's date. What I'll do is, I'll just make it as 2016. That's it. Okay, 2016 I'm selecting. So there won't be an issue. Otherwise, if you create, okay, if you create with the today's date, you cannot create the relationship. When you go to employee, if you try to select this manager in the employee definition field, you don't find this manager. System will be verifying and finding this manager is created after employee. That is actually a bug, but notice that when you're working on the system. Okay, so there is no concept of sending the username and password here. No notification required. So just select person type. We know very well how to create the employee user. The same we are going to follow now. But just this is the point which we have to consider. Hire date. Make sure that you will be having the past date when you look at the employee hire date. So employee, legal employer, nothing but legal entity. So we have a with a name called as ERP Cloud. Okay, so select our business unit. So select right business unit here. Okay, if you select some different business unit, there won't be an issue when we are going to work on payables or receivables or other BU specific applications. But when you are going to work on fusion expense, it will have impact. System will route to only this business unit. Okay, that's how it will work. That's how they design the solution. So just make sure that you are selecting the right business unit. Fine. For payables, receivables applications, you can select any one of the BU here, and you will be able to work and you will be able to access the particular BU which you are associating to the user with the specific roles under data access for users definition. But in case of fusion expense, nothing but I expense in EBS, so it will be pointing to the BU which you are specifying here. So our BU name is ERP Cloud US Business Unit. Select. Okay, that's all. Then say save and close. Now this definition, okay, this function is related to HCM. When you say person user definition, this is belongs to HCM. This definition will get synchronized with the security console. The same user record will be available in the security console. From there we can set the password and we can assign the roles which are required for this employee. But in our case, we are not going to create any transactions from this employee or this user, just to send the approval notification. For that reason, you no need to assign any roles. Okay, no roles required to test whatever we discussed now. Just set the password. Set password for this user, that would be enough. So that we'll log in to the system with this user, and any notification this user is going to get from subordinates, those can be approved. So now go to security console. Go to users. The username is ERP Cloud MGR. Okay, we'll reset the password. Reality, we didn't set any password. First time we are going to set it up. So anyway, we have to go with the reset password option and set the password here. Say reset password. Fine, done. Now for the next step. So we created user. Anyway, we have this user and we created manager user. Now we have to create the relationship between employee user and to employee and supervisor relationship. So now what we have to do is, for this user you have to specify this user or this employee, or say for this employee, okay, we have to specify who is the supervisor. Will be just selecting this employee as a supervisor for this user. Now to select supervisor for this user, just go to this user definition. Okay, go to ERP Cloud user definition. So where we can find by using the task called as manage users. Manage users. find our user or say employee ERP cloud search. Okay, so this is our employee record. Select it, select this record, select, then go to actions, say manage users. So and another important point here is, so from here if you want to create the new user you can create it. Just now we created, right? So from here when you search you can find the employees. The employees what you created from this page you can find it from this function by using the manage users function. What are the employees you created you can find, as well as the users which are created from HCM core function. Remember, this is the basic user definition, basic employee definition. Okay, manage user task will help you to create the basic employee definition. That means with the basic information you can create the employee. The reality, if you are going to define the, if you are going to create the employee record with a more detailed level, for that we have a separate process which will be done by HCM consultant. Okay, so that users also you can find from here. That is another point. Okay, any user you can find from here which is created by using manage users task or employees which are created from core HCM function. Fine, go to actions, say manage users. Now we have to specify who is the supervisor for this user or say employee. So here you can select manager for this user or say employee. For this employee, who is the manager? ERP Cloud MGR. Click on search. Name is ERP Cloud MGR. Select, say OK. If you don't create manager prior to this date, employee hire date is October 16th. If you create supervisor after this date, when you search here you don't find that manager. That's all. That is the issue you'll have when you are working in these environments. Okay, just save and close. Fine, just done. Okay, what is the next step? We're done with that. We have to go and create the approval rule. Okay, fine. To create the approval rules, just search for just approval. Use task as approvals.
Lakshman?
Yep.
Lakshman, through security console.
Your voice is not audible. You are not audible.
Hello, is it better?
Yeah, it's better, but not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So through all the security.
Your voice is very low. Can you just look at the volume what you are using? System side.
It should be fine now. Check it. Hello.
Yeah, there is some fluctuation. Fine. Okay, I can hear. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So through security console also we are creating the user and we are giving the employee roles. So what is the difference between that? Like what we have done
Sorry,
and
no.
what we are doing?
Your volume is very low. I'm really sorry. I could understand something, but not really.
What I was saying, like through security console also we are creating the user accounts and we are giving the employee roles to them. And what is the difference between that? Like what we have did just now?
Fine. Okay. See, from security console we are creating the user and we are giving the role. Why we are giving that role? What is the use of that role? We discussed.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, like, if you remember?
to make the I remember that to make any transaction in the system, we give the employee role.
No, 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 not at all. Okay, if you assign the employee role, that will give you the access to go to ESS job page, and many other self-service functions would be available for that user. That is the purpose. Okay,
Okay.
you cannot you cannot by creating the user from security console, you cannot associate employee definition with that user. Only the employee association can be mapped with any user, which user you create from HCM, the manage users task only. Here, give the access just to, you are creating the user from security console. That means you are creating the implementation user. There won't be any reference. There won't be any specification that user will be working for which business unit and falls under which legal entity related operations, and the who is the supervisor for that user. Those all you cannot specify if you create the user from security console. That is only possible if you create user from manage users task, which is source of HCM function. Okay, the security console, you are creating the user. For that user, you are giving the role called as employee. That role will give some access to certain functions to process. Because of that, it will open under tools schedule processes. Because of that, it will open some reports and analytics related function, it will add task, it will add. To have such kind of access, we are adding. Not only that, if you have some expense report related access and all, you will be able to go and see that. And some self service in any organization, any employee, if some employee is going to work, what areas, okay, that employee requires some self service access, that sort of provision can be given to any user through employee role. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, we cannot make relation, we cannot have a connect some kind of association to any user with employee role just to give some privileges, but HCM user only will have a privileges to just address the other association like with a supervisory or some job or position related mapping. Everything you can do only for HCM user.
So does that mean like when we create that means like we are creating the just user accounts and we are giving the employee roles to that. But here through HCM we are creating actual employee records. Am I
Actual
right?
employee records for that user also, self-service privileges are required, right? For that reason, for that user also we are assigning the
Right.
employee role.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's all.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Thank you, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you. Fine. So approvals. Here you could see, so approvals related to our financials. Approval. Let me search with approval. So here you can find define approval management for financials. Okay. So this is the task you have to use. Manage task configuration for financials. Okay. You can directly search with this task. Manage task configuration for financials. Just click on this task. It will take us to BPM. So BPM work list. Okay. So since we selected task called as task configuration for financials, your system is routing to this BPM work list and the tab got selected. Under this task configuration tab only, these all workflows you can find. These all are workflows when you compare with EBS. We call as task configurations, nothing but approval tasks. Okay, out of this you have to find the workflow which they provided for AP invoices. So you can find here. So here is the workflow for payables. Financials, AP accounts payables, invoice approval. Just select it. Now here you can see assignees. Here you can see the actual workflow diagram. Just select tab called as assignees. So here is the workflow diagram. Okay. You can see the vertical representation. These all are different nodes. Node we call as nodes. These nodes they given, okay, this title is invoice document. This will work for entire invoice, and if you want to set for invoice line level approval, these nodes will be useful. Okay, these nodes will be useful. These all these nodes which you see here, okay, up to here, all for invoice lines level. Line level also you can set up roles, right? For that you can use the below all nodes. Okay, you can use to set up invoice level approvals. So depending on the business scenario, you can set it up. You may have a requirement of, okay, you may have a requirement of sending just for your information notification. For that we have one node. Okay, so here we have, see, so already disabled. We'll see how to enable for your information participant. Another one you can say you have 5 employees, for example I'm taking. So whenever invoice is created and submitted based on the rule, say that invoice will be submitted to 5 employees. You may have a requirement when 5 employees goes and approve, then only the invoice has to be approved. Otherwise, that should not be approved. Okay, for that kind of scenarios, here you have a parallel approval participant. Okay, so parallel means, so all has to be approved, then only it will get approved. And we have other option called as serial. Here place a cursor, that will show the serial participant. You can see the within the pop-up invoice document approval serial participant. That means the serial means you will be specifying in the rule definition itself, you will be specifying in the process of approval definition, you will be specifying the serial. Employee A, after employee A it has to go to employee D, after employee D it has to go to employee B, after B it has to go to E, then it has to go to C. That's how you can specify the serial. So whenever you submit, whenever you create the document, it has to through with all this sequence. In case of parallel, there is no sequence. Okay, the 5 employees has to approve. There is no sequence. Who has to approve first? Anyone can approve. Finally, 5 employees should be approved the document. When you talk about serial, we'll be specifying some sequence. The sequence need to be followed to approve that. Or you can go and specify the single approver also. Okay, you can go and specify single participant where that notification will be submitted to a specific person. Even a single participant also, depending on the rule which you are creating, you can send to multiple people also. We'll see these options. Okay, so we have in the different applications we'll be testing that. In the each and every application we'll go with one scenario. We'll make sure that we'll understand what are the options we have, how we can set up these approvals. Okay, so when you are working on the fresh instance, you may find this most of the nodes as enabled. Here in this entire workflow, only this node is enabled. You can see this icon is in the blue color. That means that node is enabled. If you can place cursor here, it will show. It's okay. So if you place a cursor on this, it shows it's a disabled. Disabled. Here it is not showing disabled. 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 That means the icon. Okay, the purpose, how the workflow will work, the purpose based icon what they given, so that you can see the node is enabled or not. By looking at that icon you can understand. So these all nodes are disabled. all the nodes you see here. Disable. If the node related icon, if you see in the blue color, that you can understand the node is enabled mode. The node is enabled, there you can create your approval rule. If node is disabled, you cannot do anything. So in the fresh instance, okay, by default, if you see any node as enabled, you can go and disable it. We'll see the process, how to do that. Okay, first what we have to do is, you have to select the fin AP invoice approvals task configuration. You have to select, just click on that, that will get selected. Let me re-navigate that. So once you click on this task, it will take us to this tab directly. Okay, we'll discuss what is approval group, how it works. Okay, fine. So just click on this task, select this task, will be landing in this page. Now what we have to do, you have to select the required workflow related task. So fin AP invoice approval, select it. So it has to fetch entire the workflow information. It takes time. Okay, done. Now what we do is, before you enter into assignees and all, you can just click on edit. Means with edit privileges we are entering into that. This node by default you cannot go and edit it. So if you want to edit this node, this workflow related nodes as per our requirement, enabling the node or disabling, first you select it, the section will be displayed, then go to edit task, just click on edit task. Okay, now it's edit is selected. Now go to assignees, just select assignees. Now here you can see all the nodes. Say you want to enable this node, for example. If you want to enable this node, just select that node. Once you select, below the properties will get displayed. And one more point, remember, when you are performing this sort of task, you can use the Mozilla browser. Okay, most of the time this workflow BPM work list here, when you are setting the approvals, this work task configuration, these nodes won't respond if you are trying from say like this Chrome primarily. In the Internet Explorer, yes, that will work, sometimes may not work, but the Mozilla would be a very friendly browser for this area of the configuration. Okay, so better you can use Mozilla. So if you are going to perform in the Chrome, when you select it, it won't display below section. If I select this, it won't display related to that here, so that you cannot enable or disable the specific node. Okay, so that is a point we have to understand here. Now say for example I want to enable this node, select it. So very simple process, select, then go to advanced option, and here what is selected already, ignore participant. Ignore participant is enabled. That means when you say ignore participant, ignore that node. That is the meaning. Ignore this node to participate in the approval process. That is the meaning. So it's already enabled. It's enabled in the sense we just give an instruction to the system to ignore. That is the reason it got disabled finally. So I'm going to uncheck. Uncheck means I'm saying to the system don't ignore. So this will be enabled. Again I want to enable this node also. Go to advanced. Here it is selected already as a ignore, but we don't want to ignore, we want to use it. That means it should be enabled. Uncheck this, this will be enabled. We'll see that. First are selecting. Okay, 2 we enabled. One more. Go to advanced option and uncheck this. Okay, and here we have one node which is already enabled. I'm selecting that. I'll go to advanced. I'll say ignore. That means I'm going to disable it. Okay, I'm disabling it. So now you have to save these changes. Just save it. Say okay. You have to commit. It's nothing but you are going to deploy these changes. Just say okay. Done. Now again, if you want to do modification, you have to click on edit. Now without selecting edit, we are going to assign is. Now you will be able to see those nodes are enabled. See, these three nodes you can see in the blue color because you made participant. Okay, ignore participant you unchecked. That means system is activating those nodes for participation in the approval process. By using this any one of the node, you can create the approval rule. And other node we disabled. You can see here. Earlier this node was enabled, single participant. Now it's got disabled. This is how you can enable or disable the nodes. The fresh instance when you are working, if you see, okay, the nodes are enabled, better you can go and disable all the nodes. Which node, by using which node you are going to define the approvals, that you can enable and you can create the rule and you can use. So what happens is by default Oracle provides some default roles also. If there is something wrong with that, it may disturb whatever you are trying to test or whatever you are trying to implement. So that's the reason it's recommended disable the node. Within the node what you are enabling, if there is some default role, that rule also you can disable. We'll see that process also. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll disable these nodes now, and we'll enable one node and we'll be just proceeding. Okay, fine. Okay, so just what we'll do is, just for our testing to understand how to enable the nodes, we enable these nodes. We'll disable it. We'll just for our to test this case, to define the rule, we'll enable any one of the node, because these are all nodes related to invoice header. Okay, we'll go and enable any one of the node. Okay, we'll go with this node, so which is just like single participant. Okay, even you can use that node for multiple participants also. How it can be used, we'll see that. We'll discuss. Okay. First we'll disable these nodes. Okay, first we'll disable. How to disable? You have to go with edit option, then only you'll be able to disable. Otherwise you can select it, the properties will be displayed. Okay, you cannot enable it to disable this. You cannot select it to disable. So go with edit option. Then go to assignees. Now you can select specific node and go with advanced option. Then say ignore participant. Then next node, same you have to follow, ignore participant. Another node, select advanced, say ignore participant. Done. So these three we disabled, just what we enabled for our understanding. Now you may enable any one of the nodes. Just I am enabling this node, which you can see as a single participant. How to enable? Select it and go to advanced and say ignore participant. When you say ignore participant unchecked, that would be just used for the approvals. Now you can save it. You may write some comments if you want to write. Then just he's just mute from your end, seems to. But just say okay. Done. Now we can go with, again you can go with the edit privileges. Then we will be able to define the rule. Okay. Before that you can go and see as that node is enabled. So these three earlier we could see those are enabled, right? So just we disabled. Fine. Now just other node we enabled, right? We'll go and see that. So this node we enabled. Now by using this node, if you want to define any rule, basically just you have to click on this, it will give the pop-up and you will be able to create. For that you need privileges, you have to go with edit option. Okay, just go with edit option, just select edit and go to assignees. Okay, go to assignees. Now we have one node which we enabled, just go to that node. Okay, just scroll little right here. Fine. So here in this node you can see within the node one dot icon, just click on that. Just click on that, you'll get a small pop-up saying that go to rule. Just click on that go to rule option. Okay, wait for some time. It's just fetching that actual framework. Still it is processing. Wait for a second. Yeah. So now here you can see already there are few rules which are created. If you see here, total 125 system is displaying, and we have total 6. So these, the first one is given by Oracle. Okay, first rule is default rule. The first rule is default rule. Remaining all rules are created in this environment for testing purpose. So what we'll do is, what are the rules are available in the same node, we'll make sure that those are disabled. But here, since it's a test environment, okay, we can do these activities. Since this is a test environment, we can do, but when you're working, what are the rules we create, those always will be active and working. To create another rule, we never disable existing rules. Fine, let's see how to disable it. We'll verify one by one rule whether the rule is active or inactive. Just click on expand. Just click on this expand option. Fine. And next to that expand option.
Lakshman, your voice is not audible.
Yeah, sorry, I think
Yeah, Lakshman, your voice is breaking.
Okay. I think there was some network issue earlier. Now I think you can hear me now, right? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Lakshman.
Now you can hear me. Fine, great. Sorry, I think there was some network issue. That was the reason. Even this application also was not responding properly. Fine. Yeah, now it's fine. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, so here you could see total 6 rules. Now we are able to see 1 to 5 which got displayed here. So now what we'll do is, in the fresh instance, you may find one default rule. Okay, you may find one default rule, but here we are going to test to make sure that these rules won't impact our rule definition. You can go and inactivate these rules. You can go and inactivate these rules, since it's a test environment we are doing. Okay, just expand this. Next to that expand icon, here you have another down arrow icon called as show advanced settings. Just click on that. There you can see one active checkbox. It's got disabled, so this is deactivated. Okay, and again go to next rule, expand. It's also deactivated already. Go to next, this also deactivated. Go to next, so that also deactivated. Go to fifth rule, verify, that also deactivated. And if you notice here, we have total 6 rules. Click on next. This is another rule. Expand it. This also deactivated. All the rules are deactivated. Okay, fine. Now we'll create our own rule. So to create the new rule, just 1 second. Okay, click on add rule. Click on add rule. Just click on add rule. It is just by default it is giving the name as rule 1. Now we can go with our own naming convention for the rule. So ERP Cloud EMP Supervisor rule. Just I'm writing some short name. Then expand it. Expand it. This section is not required, so this you can select it. Fine. Expand it. Here if condition. If undo then. With if condition then it's all about see which approvals you are creating. Accordingly you can give the expression here. Okay, the relevant expression you can specify. So when you go with amount limit, you may specify if here you can select invoice amount is same or more than, same or less than or between or in, okay, more than this, okay, options you can use. You may specify if invoice amount is same or less than, here you can give 50,000, then who can approve that you can specify through this option. That also will be testing. For now, whatever we discussed and planned, we'll see that. Now, what we are trying to understand, if invoice is going to be created by ERP Cloud, that should be submitted to ERP Cloud's supervisor. Fine. For that, what you have to do is you have to make approvals as a mandatory. For that, here we have expression called as one is one. Here enter one in the first field. Here it should be is one is one. Then here in the search you can click on search. Okay. Enable constant. This all will be closed and give one. Then say okay. This is how you have to specify the expression. One is one means what system will do is system will understand. Okay, the approvals are required. Invoice approvals are required. Mandatory. Okay, if it is mandatory, how that approval should work, that will specify in the then. So here then you can go with this add action. Just click on this add action and here say add approval. So these are the different options to approve, sorry, to route the approvals. You can go with the supervisory or else resource. You can specify that approvals notification should goes to so and so resource, particular person, or else for so and so position. Okay, the position hierarchy you can create a specific position, you can specify, that's how it can be routed. You can create the management chain approval hierarchy that system follows, or else you can set at job level, or else you can create approval groups. Now we are just talking about this approval supervisory. We'll go with this option. It's nothing but employee supervisory. Just select it. Select it.
So, Lakshman, in case of custom, how do we assign it?
In case of custom, first that has to be developed. Okay, the workflow has to be this one. The technical people copy it as this what Oracle is providing. They'll copy it. They'll do the changes as per the requirement. Then that will come in this list. Okay, that will be coming in this list. Then you'll be setting as per your requirement. Fine. That's how we'll do it. Here list builder, whatever you selected, that system is showing response type required and number of levels. Okay, the number of levels means, say if you say one, if ERP Cloud is going to create invoice, it has to go to only one level. That means the ERP Cloud supervisor it has to go. Then if supervisor approves, that invoice will get approved. If you specify number of levels as 2, when ERP Cloud submits that invoice, it goes to his manager. That is one level. Manager has to approve. Once manager is approved, it has to be routed to manager's manager. Once manager's manager also approves, then only the document will get approved. That means 2 levels of approval we require by following this supervisory hierarchy. Okay, this is how you can specify. Okay, so say 1, we'll go with the 1 and starting participant. Okay, just click on search. Who will be the participant? Okay, normal, just we'll go with this. Okay, starting participant. Just click on search option. Okay, so here here you can specify these options, whatever system is selecting, keep as these. Here reference user. Okay, reference user, which user this rule is applicable. And you set employee supervisor, it's not for specific user, for any user that should work. In that case, what you can do is that you can write as a task creator, task dot creator. Okay, that you write in the double quotes. You just follow the same string here, task T capital ASK dot C creator. It should be lowercase. Write it. That what we are saying, who is creating the task here nothing but invoice, who is creating the invoice for that employee, this should be applicable. Anyone is going to create invoice, that has to be routed to their approval. Okay, approver. So that is the meaning of this task create here, task creator. Whoever create the invoice, that has to be submitted to manager, that's all. So just say okay. It's simple, like just reference user, don't give any specific user. Just if you give specific user, that would be applicable only for that user. If that user is going to create any document, then it will goes to that user's supervisor. But here generally we just use that expression as a task creator. Whoever is going to create the invoice, their supervisor, it has to be routed. So you don't need to create multiple definitions for each and every user. This is a common representation you can have. Okay, say okay. And next, top participant, reality it is not required, but even it's not mandatory, they made it as optional. For that reason you have to specify. Click on search, select get user. Okay, and here you can provide the username. In this approval hierarchy, who is the top participant? Okay, so if you take example 2 levels approval, the user is ERP Cloud supervisor is ERP Cloud MGR. ERP Cloud MGR supervisor is, say for example, XYZ. If this is the hierarchy you are going to follow, that information you can specify here. Reference user you can specify here as a XYZ user. Okay, you have to provide XYZ user. So in our case, we are going with one level approval. So the username is ERP Cloud MGR. Because of that name, it is not going to root it. Just as some value we have to specify for system validation process. Any user is going to create. Okay, for example, ABC user is going to create purchase invoice. System will look at for ABC employee who is the supervisor. It will be routed that approval notification to that employee only, because you are giving some username here. It won't root here. Just as a part of definition, you have to give it. That's all. Okay. So here, give the name as ERP Cloud MGR. You can provide in the double quotes. Then say okay. Fine. That's all. You just create a rule. The starting participant you given as a task creator. Anybody is going to create task that has to be routed. And top participant as a mandatory, you have to provide some username. Who are involved in that hierarchy as a topmost level, their name you can give. But system is not going to use that name. It follows always who's creating. A notification will be submitted to that user. Okay, we created rule.
Yeah, Lakshman, in sorry to interrupt you. This starting participant, we can give the ERP cloud also, right? As a user reference
Yes, you can get it.
instead of
In
task
that case,
creator.
in that
Yeah.
case, it is applicable only for that user. Okay, now we are creating as a generic common. Fine. And let's verify whether this rule is active or not. By default, it has to be active by default, but you could see it's by default it's not defaulting. So make sure that the rule is active. Once you're done with this, what you have to do is you have to submit this rule for validation. Scroll little up. you can see one tab called as validate. Click on this. Validated, you can see validated results. Scroll down completely, extreme down, and you can see one small panel here, restore panel. Just click on that. It will open the space. Here scroll little left. You can see that validation message here. The message is no validation errors or warnings found. That means we created rule properly, nothing wrong with our rule. That's what we have to understand. So now what we have to do is save our rule and deploy your rule. Here deploy is nothing but commit. Just deploy it. We create chart of account structure and we save it. After saving also we'll submit for a deployment. Similar to that, here you have to save and commit. Done. Okay. Once again, just we'll go and verify our rule. Here we created. So go to rule. We are not going with edit option. So that's the reason it's showing like this. Click on next. The seventh rule is ours. This is one. Expand it. One is one. Expand. Whether it's active or not, we are going to verify. Active only. Cool. Fine, done. So now you can come out from this BPM work list. BPM. Okay. Just closing this. We'll see some other expressions also, how to specify, how to send to specific user, how to send to some group of people for approval. We'll be testing. Okay. First we'll try to understand how to set it up for employee supervisor. Okay, done. So rule also we created.
Lakshman,
Yeah.
Lakshman, the process what you showed in terms of BPM, it is somewhat robust as well as a little bit complex. Is there any documentation around this?
You may find in the meta link. You can just try in the meta link. Okay.
Because this has multiple steps to be performed. Because when you compare with AME, it is straightforward. You have your setups, conditions, and approval groups. Here, it is somewhat different.
Compared to AME, it's a simple. So in AME, you have to go on the task, transaction type you have to select, and you have to create, if required, you will be creating the approval group. There also you will be creating the rule and condition, you will be assigning. Similar process, but compared to that, it's very simple. In the one step, you'll be able to create. You have to go and click on create rule. It can be any kind of expression. Click on rule, and you can write that condition, and everything you can specify there only. You can just save and validate, and you can proceed. Yeah. So you can find some documents maybe in the meta link. I'm not sure on that. We'll see if I have something I'll be sharing. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So the next point is enable invoice approvals for BU using invoice options. Okay. And again, another point is when you are creating the rule, you can have some additional representation that should be applicable for specific BU only. That also will be covering. Going forward, we'll see those points also. Okay. Now you can go to invoice options. Go to your project. Set up on the maintenance. Just click on overview. Open the project. Search for invoice options. So manage invoice options. So ERP Cloud, US Business Unit, we have in the selected scope. If you click on go to task, that BU specific invoice options only will be open. If you want to set the invoice options for a different business unit, we know how to do it. You have to click on this and you have to change the BU name. Then you have to click on go to task. Fine. Just click on go to task. Whatever the BU in the selected scope, that BU related invoice options will be open. This kind of activities you can do only from the project. You cannot do directly from FSM, the common search. Okay, this is our BU. So here you can scroll little down. You can see here approvals and say enable invoice approval. Okay, just enable invoice approvals, and other options also you may specify allow force approvals and require validation before approval. All these options however you require you can set up, but now just I'm enabling invoice approval here. Invoice approval will be applicable for this business unit related invoices. Fine. So that's all. These are the setups you have to complete. Okay, we're done with the required setups. Create a rule and everything. Now we'll create invoice from ERP cloud user. Done. So go to invoice workbench. So invoices. Then go to task panel. Say create invoice. So here select supplier. Okay, provide invoice number and invoice amount. Say 50,000. Okay, any amount you can give because our approval rule is not based on amount. You can select distribution set or you can provide distribution combination. You can save it. Invoice number is already exist. Okay, validation not validated. Approval required. Okay, fine. We'll submit for validation. Okay, fine. So validated. Approval is required. Now we have to submit for approval. Invoice actions and go to here approval, and we have a different approval option here. Initiate, withdraw approvals after submitting, hold, force approval, resubmit, or approve or say reject. Okay, here even if you click on approve, it cannot be approved because this user doesn't have approval limits to approve it. Only the point here is initiate. Just click on initiate. Now notification should goes to this employee supervisor as per our approval configuration. So in these demo instances, in the most of the instances, this approvals won't work. Now we'll see if it is working fine. Okay, we can execute this process. Otherwise, the same I'll be showing in the different instance. I'll just go test it on another instance, same setups. Okay, no changes. I'll be just we'll see the results also. Now we'll hope that we can see the expected results. Okay, fine. So now you can sign out from this user and log into the instance as a ERP Cloud MGR. Let's hope system will trigger the notification without any system related issues. ERP Cloud MGR. Again, see, when you submit for this, it may take some time also to trigger the notification. That also please consider. Immediately you may not get, sometimes it may take some time because it has to be routed through the BPM workflow. So here you have a bell icon. Okay, you have a just bell icon, you just click on this. Here you will get notifications normally. Okay, action required, this is the different, it may take some time to get that notification here. Let's wait for some time. We'll log in as a ERP Cloud and we'll verify that approval related status from there also before system will root. I'll go to payables, invoices. Okay, and one more point, within the payables dashboard also you can see as there is one invoice pending from others approvals. If it is routing, that it will be reflecting here. If you go here, that should display here pending approvals from others. Under this, system will display that invoice. Since still it's not reflecting, we'll go and see the status of our invoice. I mean the routing approvals related. This is the invoice which we created. Just click on invoice number. So status is rejected. That means in this environment it's not working. What is the issue? If you see, you can find it. View approvals or notifications true. So system related issue. Okay, it got registered or rejected. Workflow system issue. Okay, so initiated and system is rejected. In this environment, that approvals are not working. So that's the reason. I just took a trial again to test it. No issues. I'll be showing the with the result also. I'll check other instance and I'll show you. Same, I'll just will repeat it since we are aware of how to do this setup. The next time when you are doing, just we can finish within 5 to 10 minutes. We can complete these setups and we can see this. If you have any other instance availability from your side, maybe from your company or client or any, you can try. It will work. As the same, you can try. It will work. We will be discussing some other scenarios also. Okay, so what happens is just once you just click on that, notification goes to that manager. You can click on that bell icon. There it will be showing the notification as a there is some invoices created, and once it's approved, here it will be marking the status as approved. That's it. Okay, once that is approved, this user also who created that invoice, they'll get notification as it's approved. Here this notification you can see as a rejected. So there is some error. error in invoice approval. That means in the workflow there is some issue, because since these are the kind of demo instances, there may not be proper maintenance. If there is some issue, may not be resolved in these environments. So in the most of the environments, this kind of issues will find. But I'll just find one environment. I'll take you through. Just first I'll test it. In which environment is working, I'll take you through that process. But this is how just we have to configure. This is how we'll submit and rotate, and we'll be able to approve. Finally, this status will get approved. Okay. Any questions here, please? But you can expect to see the results. I'll make sure that. So, any questions on this to understand? Of course, we could not see the result.
Lakshman, like in EBS, okay, if suppose workflow get stuck or some rejected, so we can look into that particular area. I mean that error message.
Yeah, I got it.
So where is that? Yeah.
The first point is here. You can just go to the invoice, and from here you can see. The other place is you can go to BPM and you can find over there. 1 second, I'll show you. One as we see in here. You can open the invoice and invoice actions, view approvals and workflow notifications. This is the one which we verified just now. Okay, you can see this. Other option is you can go to BPM. There you can see the reason. The reason it says in this environment, it's a wrong one. It shows some supervisor is not found or not. So say approval. After going to BPM, next to user you have a drop down option. Just click on that. There you can go to here home. Go to home. There you can see the errors related to this process. Now you can see for current one. You can just click on that title. You can see the message why it is getting errored. The supervisor does not exist. Even if you don't set supervisor also in this environment, that's what is happening. This is a bug in this environment. Most of the environment, these issues we have. But anyway, just try to understand how to set it up. Okay, that is primarily we have to understand. But results also I'll be showing maybe in the different instance, since it is not supporting. It's instance specific issue. Okay, correct. HCM employee supervisory hierarchy. We given the supervisor, right? Even if you don't set employee supervisor also, the same error message we are getting in this instance. That is the issue we have. Okay, fine. So this is all about approvals. Okay, maybe I'll try to find out some other instance where approvals are working. If possible, I'll show you in the tomorrow session itself. Okay, the tomorrow session itself we'll see. Otherwise, maybe just within 2 3 days I'll keep ready that other instance setups and I'll take you through, or else we directly will do all the setups within the class and we'll test it. Fine, this is what we have to understand. There are other cases also, other scenarios also which we'll be testing. So let's find first one instance where approvals are working, then I'll take you through those cases also. So any questions to understand these points? Forget about the results. We'll see that anyway. And any questions on this or any clarification, okay, please let me know.
Lakshman, this regarding his hierarchy, like we have the position-based hierarchy. I know this is the HCM part, position-based, job-based, and if you want to define the supervisor hierarchy based on the issue. So the same way we have to, like we do in EBS, the same way we have to do in the HCM in the Fusion.
Yes, 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 yes. But the designing
Uh,
part will be slightly different. How we do, like in EBS, we have our Oracle HRMS solution, but in the Fusion, PeopleSoft HCM. So the way how we'll define that positions and connectivity, that slightly different. So, but concept same as EBS. They will create in HCM that will be selecting as a part of rule. In the rule we selected supervisory, so there we got an option to select supervisory. The same way, if you select position, you will be able to select position. The same logic.
and like in workflow, yeah, like if we look into the workflow that is structure, there is a n number of nodes are there.
Correct.
So to activate any node, so we can select any node because I have seen some vertical nodes is also going, some parallel nodes also going. I mean, horizontally and vertical. So we can select any node, or just we have to be look into which node, how the workflow is going. So with respect to that only node we have to activate.
Yeah, that's what. See how that approval should work. So only you have to get the notification. Means for that we have a separate node. Whenever user just create a invoice, you want to get some notification. For that you can use FI, forever information, FIA. And say you have 5 employees. You want to have a case like if you are going to have 5 employees, for 5 employees the notification should go, five should approve, then only that document should get approved finally. In that case we can use parallel. Okay, in case of parallel, five has to approve, there is no sequence need to be followed, there is no serial need to be followed, and that is one node we have. And we have other node called as sequence. In case of sequence, if you have 5 employees which will be creating, okay, so those once those the five has to be approved, again they have to follow the sequence. First to who is the second one who to approve, the third, fourth, fifth. That's how the sequence we have. By following that sequence only that approvals can be done. Once by following the sequence, once the document is approved, finally, I mean, all are approved, and document will get approved. That we call as serial. Or else we have another node called a single. Okay, these that based on the purpose how that approvals should happen. If you are going to have more than one, it has to go in the serial, it has to go parallel, randomly anyone can approve, finally system will look all are approved or not. Or specific person you can go and specify for that single person we have. Even in the single person also you can route for multiple people by using the approval group. Okay, so that's how we have a different options. Okay, cool.
One question I had.
Yeah.
Ashwin, I think we are only left with this OTBI report and BI publisher report. Could you cover that tomorrow so that in the weekend we can practice some
Of
reports?
course, we'll do that. Those are just simple definitions. See, when you talk about
Yeah,
BI is
show
not.
us how it
One
works.
second, one second. BI is not our part. It's I planned it to show you how to understand how we
Yeah,
go and write the queries.
yes.
So for that
Just show
part,
that tomorrow and then we can practice over the
yeah,
weekend
yeah,
because this invoice approval took the whole day today. So
yeah, yeah.
again, if we do it tomorrow,
Sorry.
we can do it this tomorrow. That will be great because then we can practice on the weekend.
Next we don't have. I'll try to find out some other instance where approvals are working. If I find it,
Yeah,
I'll test it offline. If it is working, the same I'll be executing
yeah,
once again in the class itself. Since we gone through this process very detailed level, it won't take us
yes.
to complete and fast track. Within 5 to 10 minutes, we can complete that approvals since we have seen today.
Okay,
Okay, once we
okay.
done
I
with
think.
that, maybe we'll be spending for 10 minutes for BI and maybe 10 to 15
Uh-huh.
for OTBA. Here, just it's a
I
simple.
think this will. Yeah, this will complete this week the whole APS.
Correct. We'll do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
yes, yeah, we'll be completing tomorrow. These two for sure. If I am not
Okay.
able to find the instance where these approvals are working, okay, we'll mark it as pending only. We'll see later. Meantime, if you have some other instance, you can take a trial from your end. That will work.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Fine. Thanks. So then that's all for today. If no questions, we'll wind up the session. And before that, I think Shiva has some query.